Hi everyone, Salesforce integration training day 20. Let's see. So today we are going to talk about another real-time scenario integration. This time the integration is we are going to talk about from the Salesforce. How can we integrate postal code, Indian postal code? How to integrate Indian postal code. That means Salesforce will be sending a request to the Indian postal code and we will be receiving the response. When I say Indian postal code, there is a postal code which is already available. So if we go to this URL, API details. So www.postalpincode.in/API-details. Now, if we go to this screen, we can see there is a postal pin code API. Now, this has a one integration is one URL is a get call based on the pin code. We are going to get the data. For example, let me copy this. Now, if I provide a pin code here, 50081 or 50059. If I provide this data, so I'm getting some kind of a response. In this response, I'm getting this is from the Hyderabad and description. These are the details I'm getting it. Let me beautify this. Beautify JSON format. Here I paste that. Now here this side we have a postal code. So whenever we pass the pin code there, I'm getting the three arrays. First array is, this is the postcode of first array which I'm getting is name, description, branch type, delivery status, circle, district, division. These all details I'm getting it. Similarly, next one also there are two address I'm getting it with the pin code 50049. That means if I pass any postal code, if I pass any pin code, I'll get a response. So here it is searched by a postal pin code. If I pass any pin code, I'll get this kind of a response. I'll get this kind of a response. Message, number of a post office, and within the post office, I'll get this information. Similarly, there is another URL. Another URL is searched by postal office branch. Postal branch. One is a postal pin code, second one is a branch. Now, if I provide here branch name, if I provide a branch name, now it is going to give me the result. So this is a search by post office branch. For example, here I am providing the New Delhi. That's the branch name. When I provide a New Delhi, I am getting the post office, right? Message, post office, but here inside the post office, I might get a multiple JSON structure because multiple places I'll get it. So that is the two URLs. So I'm going to implement these two URLs. One is the get the details by passing the pin code. So what we will be doing is from Salesforce, we will be calling this Indian postal code. While calling this, what we will say is we will provide the pin code. We will provide the pin code. So that means a user will be searching the pin code. While calling this is the get. This is the get call. Whenever we are doing the get call, during the get call, we are passing the pin code. When we pass the pin code, Indian Postal is going to cross verify and respond the response back to the Salesforce. This is one get call. Another get call is where I am providing the branch, where I am providing the branch details. Now here this is the branch details. Along with the get call, I'm going to provide the branch details, and then we are going to get the response to the Salesforce. We are going to get the response to the Salesforce. Now this is another get. So from the Salesforce to Indian Postal. From the Salesforce to Indian Postal. So here the client is a Salesforce and server is the Indian Postal Code. Right, this is the we are going to implement. Now in this case, what I'm going to do is, so far we have used the visual force. Right now, I'm going to use the lightning. Now in this case, I'm going to use the lightning. In the lightning, I'll give two options to user. Let me open the page. Now in the lightning, we are going to implement a lightning here, lightning component. Lightning component. In this lightning component, I'm going to provide one input text. This is a enter the pin code number, enter pin code number, and another text which I'll provide where they will be entering the branch. Either they can enter the pin code or branch. If any of the data is provided here, if any of the data is provided, and below I have a button, let's say here I have a button, get details. This button is get details. When we click on this get details, below there will be a table that gets displayed. Below the table will be displayed. Now here we will be displaying the table. Now in this table, what are the data we are going to display? We are going to display the data that we are getting the response. What are the response that we are getting it? That response we are going to display here. Now the response will be, I'll be getting the Now, what are the response that I'm going to get? This is the response I'm going to get it. So, what are the response which I'm getting it? What are the response which I'm getting it? And this is the response we are getting it. Now, here this response is so first one is will be name and then description, and then we are going to provide a branch type, and delivery status, and then whatever the circle is there, circle, district, and then division, and after that region, state, country, region, state, country, region, state, country. Now these all information which we are going to display. Right here, this is I'm going to display the table. Whatever the response we are getting it from the postal code, that response I'll convert into the table and display the data here. So basically, we are going to display here whatever the name is there, name will be displayed here, and description will be displayed here, branch type will be displayed here, delivery status here, circle will be displayed here, and the district will be displayed here, division, region, state, and then country. All the data will be displayed in the table. Now this is what we are going to implement right now. Now in order to implement this, couple of things which we needed. Now, if you take any Salesforce, now before implementing that, if you take any Salesforce integration or any integration, whether you do integration with the postal code or a different application or a .NET, AWS, whichever the integration you take it, there are 4 steps. if you want to implement any integration, real-time integration, there are four patterns or four steps are there. The first one is which any developer would like to know that where is service hosted. If you wanted to implement the integration, we would like to know where the service is posted. Whether service is posted at the different place or what is the URL for that. What is the URL for that? Now, right now we are saying that this is the URL here. This is URL. Now we have to know that where is the service should be posted. Where is the service is posted. Now we need to get that. Based on that, we are going to get the API method. What are the API methods that are available inside the service? What are the API methods that are available inside the service? And the second step is, that is the first step. And the second step which we would like to know that once we have a API method, we need to understand, is there any authentication setup in the server? Is there any authentication setup in the server? In case there is a authentication setup is required, then what are the parameters needed? In order to do the authentication, what is the parameters does the client needs to be passed? Does the client need to pass? And the third one is, once we know this authentication, the third step is that we need to invoke the HTTP method. We need to invoke the HTTP method from the Salesforce. And finally, the fourth step is we need to handle the response data in Salesforce. So first step is we need to know where is the service hosted. This pattern is I'm talking about. It's not only with the Indian Postal Code. Any integration if you want to implement in Salesforce, we need to know these four steps. Where service is hosted, what are the API methods that are supported here, and is there any authentication needs to be done? And if the authentication needs to be done, what is the parameter that needs to be passed? Once these two steps are completed, then the third step will be invoke the HTTP methods. What is the method? Like a get method, post method, what are the methods are available? Invoke that HTTP methods from the Salesforce. And once it is invoked, then we will get a response. We need to handle that response in the Salesforce. Why we need to handle the response? Because what are the response is there? How that response are we displaying it? Are we displaying that response in the table format? Are we displaying that response into the field level? Each field value we are displaying it. How we are displaying the data? So that we need to handle. So these are the common steps for any integration. These are common steps for any integration. Now let's move on to our scenario. So integrate India postal index number. In order to do this, first thing is that we need to know API documentation. API documentations are available in this. Now this is the documentation. This is the documentation. In this documentation, they have specifically provided the API path, right? And then what is the thing that we have to pass it? What is the PIN code that we have to pass it? What are the data that we have to pass it? How many APIs are there? So there are two APIs are there. There are two APIs. Now that is one. So here we need to know, first thing is API documentation. So that is the documentation. And in the documentation, if you see, one is a get post office details, search by the PIN code. First one is searching by the PIN code. And the second one is getting the postal details, searching by the branch name. Branch name. We are searching, one is searching with the PIN code, another one with the searching by the branch name. So both we will be implementing it. Now let's go with the first one, which is called as a get postal details search by PIN code. Let's go with that. So getting the postal details based on the PIN code, what we are going to do is the endpoint. We need to know the endpoint. The first step is we need to know the endpoint. What is the endpoint here? Endpoint is this is the URL, and after this we need to pass the PIN code. Now the second step is we have to know that what is the HTTP method. What is the HTTP method? Now in this case, HTTP method is HTTP method is get method. It is a get method. And third step is what is the request or a response? Is it a XML or is it a JSON? Is it a request? Request is it a XML or is it a JSON? That is the third step. Once we are clear on this third step, we will go ahead and implement the process the response in the Salesforce. So this is the step by step which we have to do. Now let's go ahead and implement it. So first what I'll be doing is I'll be implementing the lightning component. So first I'll implement the lightning component to build this PIN code, entering the PIN code, branch details. Either they can enter here, for example, they are entering the PIN code here. They are entering the PIN code 5000, let's say 82, and click on the get details. Click on the get details, then it will display the data. Or they can enter, this is the or condition. Either they can enter this data or they can enter this data. Now here they are entering the, let's assume that Hyderabad they are entering. Hyderabad they are entering. Now once they enter the Hyderabad, now click on the search button. Now get search. That means there are two API calls are happening. One API call with the get pin code, another API call with branch details. Right, so we are going to implement two APIs. So first let's implement them with the postal code. Now let's go to the developer console. Now let's go ahead and close all this. Now we are going to implement the file open resource. Now we are going to create a new postal code, new lightning component. Let's say this is LC underscore postal code. Postal code. Now let's check all of this. Click on submit. Now, basically what I wanted to implement, I would like to implement the, let's see the painting. Now first I need to implement this one, enter the PIN code. So for that, let me add it into the div or a lightning card also I can add it. I can add the lightning card, lightning colon card. Right, within this, I'm going to add here, or let's say instead of lightning card, I'll take a div. Within the div, I'm going to specify here class equal to SLDS box. Now within this, we are going to add a lightning input, lightning colon input. Lightning colon input. Now, lightning colon input has a few attributes. So first one is a name equal to, let's say that this is the postal PIN number, postal PIN, and now here the person will be searching the PIN number. So that means whatever the user enters the data in this attribute, whatever the user enters the data in this attribute, I'm going to capture that. So that means I need an attribute aura colon attribute name equal to search pin. And here, let's say type equal to this is a string. Now this search pin, I'm going to give it here value v dot search pin. Then let's specify the label name. Label name equal to, let's say,
enter pin code.
Enter pin code. Enter pin code to search post office details. To search post office details. And then let me close this. This is one lightning input. Now after this, I need a button. After this, I need a button. Let's say lightning column. Button. Let's say variant equal to success. And let's display the label name. Label equal to get details or get postal details. Postal details. Let's close.
Swapna Aura spelling. Second line.
Aura, okay. Let's save this. Now file, new, let's create a application. Control A, C, app. Click on OK. Now here I am going to specify the C column. Whatever it is there. Now here extends.
Force colon SLDs.
Force colon SLDs.
SLD.
Let's click on set. Click on review. Now it has a enter pin code details and below that it has a search button. Now that's fine. Now let's go ahead. Now once we click on the button, I wanted to show that details into the in table. Let's assume that whatever the data is clicked on, search person is clicked on the button. Once he clicked on the button, I wanted to show that information, the response details I wanted to show in table. So in that case, I'm going to add another div here. Now let's say in this div, class equal to sndx hyphen box. Now within this, I'm going to use the data table. Lightning colon data table. And key field equal to, let's specify ID and data. Now, whatever the data is there, the data is need to be whatever the response that I'm receiving it, the response should be stored into the one list. So let's create another attribute. Assume that I'm going to store it into the India postal.
Swapna ma'am.
Yes.
Swapna ma'am.
Yeah.
Sorry for the interruption, ma'am.
Yeah.
Myself, I'm Venkat, ma'am. So I'm seeing your lectures from past so many days onwards in YouTube. Yeah, really, I'm impressed a lot on integration, whatever you covered. So, ma'am, in future classes, like integrating Salesforce to .NET, like that, it will be covered, ma'am. Yeah.
Yes.
So
I'll be covering that basically AWS. Okay, so that's AWS.
Okay, Salesforce integration with AWS.
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, presently I'm working in Salesforce only, ma'am. So why we need a postman, ma'am? Like whenever if you are integrating Salesforce with AWS, so like we have a postman, no, ma'am.
Yeah, so we will talk that. Let's complete this. So
okay, ma'am.
We just started the integration part. Maybe we will take it up at the end.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Fine.
So here, div and the data, I'm going to store it into the India postal list and the type equal to list. Now I'm going to store here the data. Now let's give it in the double quotes, curly braces, exclamation, V dot India postal code. Assume that whatever the response that I'm going to get it, all the response I'm storing into this data. And within the data, whatever we are displaying the data, first of all, I need to implement a header. We need to implement a header. So that means for the data table, I need to provide the header. So for that, I'm going to give the another attribute which is called as a columns. Columns equal to double quotes in the curly braces exclamation v dot. Let's assume that I'm going to create one more attribute which is storing the column header details. Which is storing the column header details. Let's copy this aura attribute. Now here, postal columns and this is also list. Now I'll use this and let's display. Now whatever the response I'm getting it from the postal code, that response I'm displaying here in the data table as well as I'm building the columns. Now let's close this data table. Now this is on the front end part. Right now it is in the front end part. Table is right now it is displaying the blank because we have not got any response here. We have not got any response. So table will be empty. So, and the column names, what we will do is let's implement the column names. The header details, let's go ahead and implement. What are the header information? What are the response I am getting it? Only I'm going to give the header column names same as if whatever the name details which I have. So that means, let's say here, whenever we are loading this, whenever we are loading or whenever I click on this button, get button, whenever I click on the get button, I'm going to invoke the method. Whenever I click on the button, I'm going to invoke the method on click equal to curly braces exclamation c dot invoke postal API. I'm going to invoke this method. Now let's copy this invoke method, go to the controller. In the controller, let's give this name. Okay, function component event helper. I have these three things. Let's use all three. So now we are going to build the header. What are the postal columns are there? Let's implement the columns. Component dot set. Component dot set. Now here I'm going to specify the attribute within this attribute. Now I need to add a columns. What are the column header columns? I need to add it. All the columns we have to add it within the square bracket. Within the square bracket. Now here we need label. The first one is which I have is label name. Label is name, comma, field name. Field name is also a name. Field name is also name, comma, type. Type is this is a text. Type is text. Like this, I need to implement the table for all of this, whatever we have. Next one is a description. So let's go ahead and implement the description. Copy this description. Let's go to the label description and the field name is also a description and it is type is text. And after description, we have a, let's say, branch type. Branch type, let's take the branch type and here also branch type. And it is a type is text. After this, we have a delivery status. We have delivery status. Let's copy that. Now this is another column. Now copy this. Now after the delivery status, we have a circle. Now let's implement the circle. And after that, we have a district. District. And next one is, after the district, division. And then we have a region, state, country. Region, state, country. Next one is a state. And then finally we have a country. All of them are a text. Now we are done with implementing the header. We are done with implementing the header. Now let's save this. Now let's refresh this. It should not give me any errors here. Perfect. Now what I'll be doing is, the next step is, whenever user enters some data here, click on this button, get postal details. We should be seeing the response in the table format. That means I need to implement a Apex class. I need to implement Apex class from the Lightning Aura, from the Aura component, from the JavaScript controller. I'll be calling a Apex class. So let's go ahead and implement a new Apex class. Let's say postal department. API. File new Apex class. Postal department underscore API. Click on save. Now we have this. Okay. Now the first thing is, I need to implement right now whatever we have. Whenever we are searching the PIN code, this method should be called. That means it is going to get the postal office. It is going to get the postal office details. Whatever the search is done in the Lightning Aura. Whatever the search is done in the Lightning Aura, that search string, whatever the search query string, has to be passed here. Has to be passed here. That means we are implementing the postal office details, search by postal pin code. We are searching the postal pin code. Whenever we wanted to call the method from the Lightning Aura, we use an annotation which is called as the Aura enabled. So let's add the Aura enabled. Now public static. Let's take a void. Now let's see, based on the response or based on the return value, we will change the void to the whatever the return value is there, we will change that. Now here the method is post office by pin code. By pin code, and the search pin we have to pass it to this method. So I'm going to say string pin code. Search pin code. Now, first of all, as I have explained previously, what are the, if we wanted to implement any integration, we need to see, first step is we are clear. The second step is we need to see, do we have to do any authentication setup, and do we, if yes, then we need to identify what are the parameters that are needed to in order to do the authentication. In order to do the authentication, what is the parameter do we have to do? Now, in this case, postal pin code. In this case, postal pin code is a open API. It's a open API. I do not need to be specifically do any authentication. I no need to do any authentication here. Now, let me show you. Without any authentication, I can directly call the postal API code. I can directly call the postal API code. Now let's say, let me show you that from the debug point of it. Now let's say debug. Now here we have it, debug. And then let's say here string. I'm going to give the endpoint string endpoint equal to. Now what is the endpoint here? Endpoint that I have is PIN code. https://api.postalpincode.in/pincode. Now let me pass that. This is my endpoint. Now also I need to say here string pin code equal to 50081. Right now I'm hard coding here. This is a string. Now next step is what we need to do. We need to create an instance for the HTTP. We need to create an instance for HTTP. HTTP h equal to new HTTP. And then I'm going to create a HTTP request. Request equal to new HTTP request. New HTTP request. Then after that, what are the data we need to pass it in the request? 3 things we have to pass it. One is header endpoint method. For any integration, we need to pass the method, we need to pass the endpoint, and we need to pass the header. These 3 we need to pass it. So let's say request dot method, set method. The method that is needed here is get. Get is the method, and then request dot set endpoint. Set endpoint. My endpoint is this is the endpoint. This is the endpoint. Now here for this endpoint, I'm going to concatenate this. Let's say this is just a. Now here I'm going to add endpoint equal to endpoint plus whatever this pin code is there, I'm going to add that pin code. Now that's my endpoint. And what else is needed? Header is needed. Request dot set header, set header. What is the header that we need to pass it here? In order to do this, we just need to pass the no other information. We need not to pass any header details here. We only need to pass the content type, because just to make it, it's a JSON script. In the content type, what we will pass the JSON content hyphen type, comma, I'll just say here application slash JSON. Application slash JSON. Now we are done with building the request. Now finally, what we have to invoke the REST call. Invoke REST call. Now how do we invoke the REST call? HTTP response, and let's say here response equal to. I can directly call here h dot send request. Send request. Perfect. This is how we are going to get the response. From this response, what are the response that we are getting it? I'm going to display into the system.debug. System.debug response. We are going to show the what are the response we are getting it dot Let's see the status code. Get status code. Now, if I execute this, I'll get an error. What is the reason? I'll get the error here.
Query parameter.
No, because the remote site settings needs to be added. We need to add
I
the,
think Swapna, we added Swapna one sample we did, right?
did we add it? Maybe I have.
Yes, I think because we did for JSON request, right? I don't know. I didn't remember whether you have given for homework or sample example.
Oh,
You
right,
have
right, right.
explained.
In the previous sessions, we
Yes.
have done it.
Yes.
Okay. So let's create it. I do not have it. So let's create this. Fine. So this is the entire code. Now, if I click on execute highlighted, let's click on the execute highlighted. End point. The spelling correct. Execute the highlighted. Now I'm getting the response 200. That means we are able to call this. We are able to call this and I'll get the information. Now I do not need any authentication for this get postal code. Get postal code, we do not need any authentication because it's a open API. So let me copy this, whatever the data that we have written here. Now let me use it. Now instead of this,
Ma'am,
yeah.
Ma'am, you are keeping like just you are selecting all the content and you are keeping. So what you are typing in the keyboard, ma'am, like control plus.
Can you repeat that again?
Like that you selected all the content like string endpoint and you
Your
aligned the
voice
content
is
to
breaking.
1 minute, ma'am. Hello, now it's audible, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, like you selected all the content, no, ma'am, from string endpoint to something, and you aligned all the content, no, like what you had been selected in the keyboard, ma'am. Hello.
Execute the highlighted.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Just you selected, but the content is not in a exact manner. After that, just you selected all the content and you aligned, no, ma'am. Like we need to type control plus shift in the keyboard, ma'am. What you had been typed, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Here, this alignment you are talking about.
Proper manner.
Yeah. That is Control A Shift Tab.
Control plus A plus shift plus tab.
No. Copy everything. Shift Tab.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah. So here string. What is the error here? Void. Static. Static void. And here I'm going to using the everything same. Now just by default adding here, what I can do is if string dot is not blank, if it is not a blank, in case if the pin code is not a blank, in case if the pin code is not a blank, then only go ahead and add the data. Go ahead and update the endpoint. So that means this is the output of this will be like some number 50032. Like this it will get it. And next we are creating the instance HTTP, and then we are creating the request, and we are invoking the REST call. Now once we got the REST call, that means next step, if the response is success, that means here we will get 200. The response we will get it is 200. Then what is the next step? If I get a response successful, that means if response dot get status code equal to 200. Then what should we do with the response? Now, basically, we need to do the response with this. The response which we have to pass it to the lightning aura component. That means whatever the response I am getting it, I need to convert that response. So let's get the response. What are the response we are getting it? Let's do the JSON parser. Now we have already seen how to use this. So JSON parser, let's say parser equal to JSON dot create parser. The response we are going to get it in the parser. Now the response dot get body. Now once I have the data into the parser, now I need to loop through the each token. I need to loop through the each token. Now the response which I am going to get it like this, I am going to get it. Like this, the response I am going to get it. In this response, I need to go through the each token, right? So from the beginning of the token, starting from here till end, every token I need to do it. Now, if you observe this, now let's copy this, let's go to the paint. Now, if you observe this, in this, now here, message number of post office onto, I really need it. I don't need this. Not required, I do not need it at all. And status success. Yes, status is success, that should be totally fine. But what is the actual data that I needed? The actual data is starting from here. The actual data is starting from here. This is the actual data. Now this data I need to be taken. Instead of taking the data from the beginning, I need to take only this array. I need to take this array. I need to take this array. From this starting of this array to the end of the array. This entire thing is called as an object. Entire is an object. Whatever the curly braces, start curly brace and close curly braces is there, that is called as an object. But here what I need, I do not need an entire object details. I just need a within the object, I need to start from here, array. Within the array, I can again start with object. I can again start with object. Now this is array, and again within this I have a object. This is till this point. This is the object. So the structure which I have is object, and within that I have a array, and again within the array I have another object. Another object. Array is basically this one, the square bracket, and object is within this curly. Now my object is ending here, and then my array will be ending here. Right, and finally I have an object closed. Now this part which I need to focus on, because what are the messages successful, those all data that is totally fine. But lightning component does not need this message, status, post of that is not required. It is not required at all. So what I'll be doing is I need to start getting the next token. What are the token it is there? All the token I need to start from here. In order to start that token, we have something called JSON token. In the JSON token, now there are two things are there, start array, start object. Start array is nothing but if you want to start with array, specific array, or if you wanted to start with object, if you wanted to take it only the object, then it is a curly braces. So I'm going to use this JSON token dot this start array and start object. Now let's go to the developer console. In this console, let's say here, now I have a parser. From the parser, let's go to the next token. Next token. Let's look through these tokens while parser dot next token, if it is a not equal to null. Next token is not equal to null. Now look through this, look through the inside. Now here I'm going to check again. If parser dot get current token, get current token. If the current token is equal to JSON token dot start array. If it is equal to start array, then only start getting the details there. And inside the start array, whatever I'm getting the details, I'm going to take the information from here. I'm going to take the details. Now, if you observe here, the data which I'm getting is like a kind of a few information which I'm getting it. Name, description, branch type, delivery status, these all are seems like a field. These all are seems like a field. That means this is the field API name and this is data. This is data. That means either I need to store this information in the object field, right? Whatever the data is there, this data I need to assign it to the field. And that means I need to create a fields in the object, or I need to create an object, completely new object I need to create it. And inside that object, I need to create these fields in order to store the information. But instead of creating that new object, what I'll be doing is I'll be creating a wrapper class for this in order to store this data, because user does not need to know what is the postal office. I'm just displaying in the table. There is no user interaction here, right? I just need only for developers, I need the data to store it in some place. In order to store that data, what I'll be doing is I'll be using the wrapper class. Wrapper class I'll be using it. Now let's go ahead and create a wrapper class here. Let's say public class. Let's say postal response wrapper. Now, within this wrapper class, I'm going to take all those fields. Now, what are the fields that I have? I have these all the fields I have: name, description, all this. So I'll take this. Now what I'll do is I'll take out whatever the data is available here. And which I'm going to create a division. And let's take out this region. Let's take out this state. And let's take out this country. Now what I'm going to do is replace whatever the double quotes are there. The double quotes I'm going to replace with public string. Replace one. I'm going to add a space there. Replace. Let's move on to the top. Replace all. Fine. So here let me add a string. Now let's copy this. Let's go to the developer console and paste it. Now here I have a name and then description, and I have a branch type. Right, so these are the wrapper class which I have created. Now, this is normal wrapper class, but this wrapper class might be referred in the lightning aura. It will be referred in the lightning aura. So in that case, we need to add a annotation which is called as a @aura enable. I need to add for every single field, I need to add aura enabled. Let's add it to the name, description, and then branch type, delivery status, circle, district, division, region, and the state, and then country. Now these fields are reported in
In
the
LWC also we need
lightning
to.
aura.
Okay.
Sorry.
In LWC also we need to add @aura enabled, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, ma'am.
Now, what we will do is now we have a wrapper class. Now we have wrapper class. Now this wrapper class, I'm going to use it on the top. Now as soon as it started, get current token is start array. That means as soon as the cursor is reached here, then it will start going inside it. And let's take this wrapper class. I'm going to use this wrapper class. Let's say each postal code, whatever the each postal is there, get that each postal equal to what are the values that I have. What are the values are there? Now, let's say parser dot, we have a keyword called predefined one, read value as. Now here apex type is, my apex type is postal wrapper dot class. Now here I need to do the conversion, which is a postal response wrapper. Now, what are the data is there? I'm storing all the data into the wrapper class. Now this is done. Once we are done with this, what is the problem? Okay, once we are done with, now finally what we can do is, now this data I need to pass it to the lightning aura. In order to pass that data to the lightning aura, so what I'll do is I'll create assume that let me create a list field. Now, what is the data we are passing it? Whatever this wrapper class is there, this wrapper class data we are passing it. So I'll create a list collection list here, list of whatever the wrapper class name is there. Let's say this is postal list. Postal list equal to new list of the wrapper class. New list of the wrapper class. And then what are the postal list is there? Postal list dot. Now here let's add postal list dot add each postal. Every individual postal I'm going to add it here. Now let's click on save. Yeah, from the apex side, we have created the method, and this method we have initialized, we have created a wrapper class, and initially we have declared the collection, list collection, and we are saying the endpoint here. You can directly specify here, or else you can use the custom label. So last time we have seen how to use the custom label, and then we have to use the HTTP request. Inside the request, we are using the get method, and the header we have specified the just application /h. Then we are sending the request to the postal code, and what are the response we got it? We are checking the response whether it is a 200 or not. If it is a 200, what are the JSON responses there? We are converting into the JSON parser. And once we convert into the parser, everything we have taken into the token. In case if the token is not equal to null, then we are going to start from the array. Right? Before the array, we do not want to take anything. Once it started the array, everything we are storing into the wrapper. And then finally, we are storing into the list of the, all the list of the records here. We are storing the list of the records. Now, let's go ahead and call this Apex class. We'll call this Apex class. Now, copy this Apex class. Let's go to the component. Now, here, let's specify controller equal to, this is the component. This is the Apex class. This is the Apex class. Now, let's go to the controller. Now, when we click on this invoke postal API, who is clicking on this invoke postal API? The button is clicked. This button, whenever we click on this button, it is getting invoked. It is getting invoked. Now, what I'll be doing here is whatever the user is entering the PIN number, whatever the user is entering the PIN number, I'm going to collect that PIN number. I'm going to collect that PIN number. So where PIN code equal to component dot get v dot search PIN. Now I'm collecting the information, whatever the user has entered, I'm collecting the information. I'm collecting the information here. Now once I collect the information, now I need to call the Apex method. I need to call the Apex method by passing this PIN code. By passing this PIN code, I need to pass it. So let's say where action, I'm declaring the action here. So I'll say here action. When I need to do if PIN code is there, if PIN code is available, then only I wanted to do. Now within this, I'll specify the action. I'll specify the action. Action equal to component dot get. Now what is the method that is available? C dot method name is post office by PIN code. Post office by PIN code. Now let's click on this and then we are going to pass the parameter. We are going to pass the parameter. So action dot set params. Within this, I'm going to specify whatever the parameter is there. It has to be a same name. Take the PIN code colon and whatever the user is entered, I'm passing that data here. Perfect. So we have a data here. If the PIN code is available, I'm calling the action and we are calling the action and this is the method which we are calling it by passing the parameter. By passing the parameter. Now once we have the action details, now I need to do the set callback. I need to do the set callback. That means what are the response which I am getting it from here. Whatever the response I am getting it, this response I need to capture. This response I need to capture. In order to capture the response, now let's say action dot set callback. Set callback. And inside this will have a two parameters. One is this and the second parameter is function of response. You can give any name instead of response. If you want to res, you can give the res. You can give res. Now close here. Within this, whenever we receive a response, the first thing I'm going to get the state. What is the state of it? Whether it is a successful or not. So response dot get state. Response dot get state. Once we have it, if state equal to successful, if state equal to success, if state equal to success, then we are going to add component dot set. In which component, which attribute we are going to add it? India postal list. India postal list. Copy this India postal list. This is a V dot India postal list. And what are the responses there? What are the responses there? Response dot get return value. Perfect. Now these all will be working only when I have a $A dot NQ action. And below I can specify the action. Click on save. Perfect. Let's go here, refresh. Now let's say 5000082. Click on get postal code. Expected JSON. Where is some error we are getting it? Mark failed JSON response is 200. And we are getting the response in the line number 31. So there is a problem here. Parser read value as now within the start array. Within the start array. Oh, okay. So within the start array, I have a object. Right? So there is a problem here. What we have done is I have just used the array and then I have started storing the information. But within the array, I have a one more thing which is called as an object. Let's go ahead and see. Now here, before coming to this, this is the array. Now first check this array, again check the while condition here. Because within the array, multiple objects can be possible. So I need to check here while parser dot next token. If it is not equal to null, then go inside it. Now you check here parser dot get current token equal to, I'm going to specify JSON token dot start object. Now within this we have to specify this postal code. So right, this is the, what is the error here? Okay. Now I'm getting the token not equal to null, then getting the start array. Check the current one start array, and within the start array, if token is not equal to null, check the current array, is it equal to object? If it is equal to object, store it into the wrapper class, and then add the data into the postal list. Let me print the debug here, system.debug, and let's say each postal plus I'm going to add this postal here. Okay, so let's see, right now let's refresh. Five 50082 get postal details. Component is not defined. Okay, so the error is which is coming component. It should be a component small c. Click on save. Now let's refresh. Five 50082. Click on get postal details. There is an error. Log is successful.
Ma'am, I think after receiving the JSON, we need to deserialize the content I posted.
So it is returning the value perfectly, the response I'm getting it. Each postal, I'm getting this. Now let's go to the JS. What is the issue?
Like after getting a JSON from web service, so we need to deserialize that particular content.
No, it's already deserializing it. So let me do one thing. Right click, inspect. Now let's click on source. And you see component in this component. Let's click on this. Let me add a debugger here. Or refresh. Five 00082. Click on get postal code. Set there is a user. Let me switch on the developer mode. On edit. Let's click on this debug mode. Let's click on save. Refresh this. Let's refresh. Five 00082. Click on get postal code. Now it is coming here. Now let's debug. Now what is the status? Status is good. And what is the response? Response I'm going to get. Response is none. Oh, okay. Sorry. So in the Apex class, the return value, it should be the return value. Okay, we are not returning anything to the Apex class. Sorry, we are not returning anything to the lightning aura. So here instead of a void, it should be a list of this, and we need to return this list of to the lightning aura, because whatever we are getting it here, we have to return to the lightning aura. So basically we are not returning the response to the lightning aura. So that's the reason it was causing a problem. Now let's see. Let's click on refresh. Five 50082. Click on get postal code. Now we are able to see. Right? So we are able to see the information. Now, for example, if I type a different one, now let's say here 50032. Click on get postal code. Now, in case if you want a clarity, this is which PIN code it is displaying it. In case if you want to know that, for example, whatever the below records are there, for which PIN code it is displaying it. For which PIN code it is displaying it. In that case, what you can do is you can add a PIN code. While displaying it, you can add a PIN code. So let's go to the debug here, Apex class, along with this information, whatever I'm adding here, what I'll do is I'll add each postal code dot. I'm going to add the PIN code. PIN code equal to whatever the PIN code is there, I'm going to add the PIN code. And in the wrapper clause also, I need to add a PIN code. Now here it is going to give me the error because this is not available inside this wrapper class. So what I'll do is at aura enabled public string PIN code. Public string PIN code. Now we are getting the PIN code details also. Let's click on save. Still there is a problem. Public string aura enabled. Click on save. Now we will pass it to the lightning aura. In the lightning aura, I need to add a one more column here which says about the PIN code, which talks about the PIN code. Let's add here PIN code, click on save. Now let's refresh. Now let's say here 50082. Get postal details. Now it is displaying the records only for the PIN code 50082. Now if I specify here right now, I am calling Sumajigoda, it is displaying it. Now if I say 50032, get postal code, it is displaying the Gachibowli and Manu, something in Hyderabad. Okay. In case if I pass this postal code, this is New Delhi postal code, I guess. So in case if I pass New Delhi one, New Delhi or a Bangalore, anything if you pass it. Now this is going to display the all these are related to 1101. This is from Delhi. Right, these are the postal codes which we can display. Now, this is the first API. This is first API. Whatever we have done it through the PIN code, we are searching it. Similarly, if I wanted to search it through the branch, right? If I wanted to do it through the branch, what you will do? You will add another lightning input here. You will add another lightning input, right? So let's say here I'm going to add another lightning input, and this is postal branch. Postal branch. This is a search branch. Search branch. Now I'm going to add in here attribute which is called as a search branch. Search branch, and then enter post office branch. to search post office details. To search post office details. Click on save. Now you have another lightning input, which is a branch details. Right, you have another one, which is a branch details. Now you have added the details. When I click on this postal column, when I click on this invoke postal API, it should also check branch, either this PIN number or a branch. Now for the branch, we have the same format of JSON. JSON output is same for first API and the second API. JSON API is same. Now here name, description, whatever the keys are there, those are the same keys. Those are the same keys are available. Right? Extra thing is that PIN code is available here. But anyway, we have added the PIN code. We have added the PIN code in our wrapper as well as in the Lightning Aura. Apart from this, I cannot see any other differences between this JSON response. Response is the same. Response is same for both of them. Only the thing is that PIN code is available additionally in the second API. Now, in this case, what I'll do is, let's go to the developer console. This is a component. Let's go to the controller. In the controller, now at the same place, I'm going to capture the branch name here. Branch name. Branch name equal to component.get search branch. Search branch. Now here, if it is not equal to null, then I'm going to call this method. I'm going to call this method. In case if the branch name is not equal to null, then I need to call one more method. So what I'll do is I'll copy this exactly same. And I'm creating another method here. I'm creating another method. This method is post office by branch. Post office by branch. Now, whatever this branch is there, now we are going to get the branch name. We are actually getting the not the PIN code. We are getting the branch name. So I'll say here branch name. Branch name, and this is as it is same. And in this case, we are going to add a branch name. And this is the API should be different. API is this one. Let me copy on top. It's a HTTPS up to the post office. Copy this. Now this time the API is different. This is the API. Now here if the branch name is not equal to null, then we are going to add a branch name. Then we are going to add a branch name. Rest all things are same.
Swapna, how to take the PIN code.
There.
In this method, we have to add a PIN code from response, right?
Yeah, so this has to be removed. This is not required because the response is already adding the PIN code. This is not required. And then we are returning the postal list. Perfect. Let's copy and save this. Copy the method. And let's go to the JavaScript. In the JavaScript, I'll check if this is a PIN code, then we are going here. Now, in case, now this is action set callback. We are doing all the action details. I'm going to add it here. If branch name is available, then I'm going to say here within this action equal to component dot get then we are going to call C dot postal office by branch. Postal office by branch, and then I'm going to pass the parameter action dot set params. And then what is the string here? Branch name. Let's copy the branch name column. We are going to pass the branch name. Perfect. Now after that, action set callback is same. This action set callback is same. From here, this is same. Now this one, it is a PIN code, and this is a branch name. And action set callback is whatever the response we have received it, everything we are storing here. Now let's click on save. Refresh.
Swapna, just one small thing. For best practices, this action callbacks and all we will do from the helper class, right?
Yes, that's true. So we will do that. What you can do is you can take out this entire logic. If PIN code or whatever is there, this logic, everything you can place it into the helper. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
a
That's okay, Swapna. Just to confirm with you, I'm asking because in real time.
Now, in case if I enter here branch, now get postal details, it is going to display all the branch. What are the branches are there which are Hyderabad, all the PIN codes I am able to see. Right, so best practices is we have to move this entire code. Whatever we are calling to the apex, it has to be called from the helper. So this is about the integration with postal code. Now we have done with postal code based on the PIN code. Similarly, we have to do it with the branch based on the branch. These all also we have done it. So that's all for today.